All right. We are live.
All
How are
right.
you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
That's it.
Yeah, Yeah, they say fair to Midland in Texas a lot. So
Oh, yeah?
do they say that fair to Midland in Florida?
No, I've never heard that phrase in my
No.
whole
I think we're losing redneck culture, and I'd like to bring it back.
life.
I feel incumbent upon me to reach back into my roots, Texas roots, and bring it back.
Bring it back.
The good parts.
That's
The
amazing.
food, and the language.
Oh,
Anyway,
look at that.
we are joined today. Can I call you MJ? I didn't
Of
ask.
course. I
Okay.
prefer.
I wasn't sure.
I should ask.
Yeah, it's good to have you, MJ. I think it would be good for you to just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. We don't normally do that, do we, Adam? But I think it
No,
would
we
be
don't,
good
but-
because,
Thank you so much.
yeah, you're all right. You're
Thank you.
Getting visited.
I'm on the call. It's okay.
man, he's got a job to do. That's okay.
I know, right? We're in hospitality. Ready to
Yeah.
shop?
He's trying to keep up with his standards.
Keep up with those standards.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, MJ.
Oh wow, where do I begin? My career has always been in people and culture, human resources. So I started off literally from the day I graduated. I had the weekend off, and that Monday I started off my first human resources job, and I've never looked back ever since. And I've been in hospitality since 2006. So my tenure is about 24 years in the service industry underneath the discipline of HR, but has been in hospitality ever since that point. So absolutely loving it. I have done numerous roles in within the discipline itself, and my core focus right now is learning and development. So that's kind of like my central point. So colleague relations. I was a recruiter for a short time, HR manager, organizational design, all of those things. So that's me, and it has been able to be fortunate enough to work with some elite brands, luxury hotel providers for the most part. I pivoted into gaming for a while. So I worked with Hard Rock International. And then my tenure with hotels has been the Ritz-Carlton, one hotels underneath the SH Group line, and the Renaissance for Lifestyle as well. So, and then now I'm here at the Charlestown place as their Director of Learning and Development, and helping to support and pivot the community of learning in a different direction with this illustrious brand. So very excited about.
And what a beautiful hotel it is there in Charleston. Just
thank you.
It is, I would honestly say, one of the grandest hotels in America. It really
it is absolutely stunning in so many ways, from its culture to its depth to its design. And there's more things to come. So stay tuned. And if you need me to do a shameless plug, I absolutely
will. Is that where you guys met?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So MJ and I met in Charleston, and recent Yipy adopters there, but we had met and worked together previous to that. And you know, when you meet someone like MJ, who is not just as infectious in spirit and hospitality, but you meet someone that I think very rarely do we meet someone that is as dedicated as MJ is to the core culture of properties and the standards of excellence. That when I met her, it was truly genuinely, and MJ, don't listen to be flattered here, of just holy cow, she gets it, right? And she not only understands it, but truly has this a strong passion for the delivery of excellence across the organization. So
yeah,
amazing individual.
Excited. Thank you for that compliment. I appreciate you.
We're thrilled.
Yeah. Well, we do like to kick things off, and we didn't do this last time, Adam, but we do like to kick things off by asking our guests, what do they think about the binder?
The SOP binder.
Don't you love that thing? I mean, I keep all of mine. Green Book, SOP book, SOPs. I have them all. I mean, I love those binders. How do we live without them?
Yeah.
MJ, do you still have your textbooks from college?
I still have my textbooks from college. I still have a few binders, 3 rings. You never go wrong. You never go wrong with this.
Never go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't go
right.
wrong. So that's my sentiment. And I've actually, clicked my finger a couple of times on the prong. So, I have war rooms,
Yes.
right?
War room, war wounds.
Yeah, war
Absolutely.
wounds.
Well, I know Adam wanted to bring you on specifically because of your background and to talk about the challenge of keeping a team on the same page and setting expectations for service. So I don't know, Adam, you want to kick us off or
Yeah,
why don't you kick us off?
I think as we look through and talk to hoteliers across, particularly here in the United States, and we even look at the name of this Beyond the Binder, is it has traditionally been the practice of hoteliers to manage and maintain their standards through like a binder, an SOP manual, printed standards, and I think that this is our best and truest effort that we've tried to do to say, look, we want to define these standards. We want to let our staff know what success in our operation looks like, sounds like, feels like, and how it should be done. And we've said, look, if we want to do that, we have to write it down, right? We have to get out of that tribal knowledge, or the oral history, as we like to call it, and say, this is how it's done because I don't know, this is how you do it, and let me show you. And when you have it written down or you have it defined, it's easier to survive, believing or maintain a certain level of consistency. The problem with that, though, is it's very difficult to maintain, right? And eventually they almost turn into time machines, right? Where you have this binder that somebody went through and dedicated like a year to putting together, or 6 months, or it was a huge effort to put this together. And then you'll open it in 2 to 3 years and say, oh gosh, like we don't do that anymore. And we don't do this anymore. And then you think, man, how do I keep this relevant and updated? And I think that there are probably few individuals that can better, understand that or talk to it as well as MJ has, right? I mean, what I think is unique about MJ and why I'm so excited that you're here, MJ, is to talk about the effort that it takes to maintain standards or to define standards, to maintain them, and then to communicate them with teams, right? Especially one as large as the operation that you're running. On how do you do that, and how do you get people to or create the culture in your organization to care about it? So yeah, that's exactly what we're thinking, and why I'm so excited to have you here. Because I mean, I guess I'll ask the question here for you, MJ, is as you stepped into your role into the Charleston place when you joined there, and you received this task of learning and development. Like we want that. I think that a lot of that was most likely very rooted in the desire to elevate the experience that guests were having there, to find what it was, elevate it, and deliver that. And so, what are some of the things that you've done in your property to meet that demand of saying, we define your service expectations and elevate those expectations and then meet them?
Absolutely. To be completely transparent, it is a work in progress. And
Yes.
there has never been
Always is.
I'm telling you, it's never been a brand that I have been able to be honored to be partners with or work alongside that it has ever not been challenging. Because when you take a look at being able to pivot anything, especially when it comes to a core culture in our industry of hospitality specifically, has been around for so many decades and years, and it has established its own legs and rapport and things of that nature. It's difficult to kind of get individuals out of a certain mindset, especially when you're leaning into more of your luxury lifestyle experiences and really trying to set the pace for what true levels of refined experiences look like. And this is not only to the guests that are registered underneath a folio, right? Or individuals that are looking or aspiring to be a part of our clientele or customer base. This is for every single individual that's a part or makes up the experience. And I actually have one of my
You have a binder
here, right? And the reason why I say I love this, because this was the direction that I used to be able to create this, right? And this was kind of like my guide, but out of sight, out of mind. It was gone. So it was being able to understand that how do I, in my respective role, first and foremost, be the example of what that's going to look like. And it's something that my colleagues, my team knows this to be true, that I will never hold them to a standard or an expectation that I first cannot be the mirror in which they look into. Now, I may falter, but I also give them the license to be able to call me out, being able to hold me accountable, because we are all a part of this and no one actually is remotely or indirectly removed from this.
Yeah.
So being able to create that. And the second thing is understanding that what I'm doing in a simplicity, it has so much complexity, right? I represent something bigger than myself. I'm representing the role that I'm in, my department, my my organization, my company. I'm also representing my industry, what spills into other areas. So if I do this well enough, I may see it as one simple standard or task, but I'm actually pivoting the way the world views all of the above. And working underneath the umbrella of BHC, BMOC Hospitality Collection, I understood coming in the door, that was going to be the first things that I would have to be able to implement. Wow. Understanding that culture is the core, that is our foundational piece. I like to refer to it as our GPS. It's a routing system. If we ever go wrong, recalculate route, go back to the basics, it'll steer you right back in the right direction. And ultimately understanding collectively, what does that final destination look like, and how do we want to feel, and what is it that we want to accomplish when we get there? So those are some of the things that I put into perspective to be able to create that. But understanding after a while, just having the binder, right, was not going to be enough, and that had to evolve in order for it to be true for the generation that was and for the one that is coming. Right?
Yeah, I love that, because I think you've articulated really well the need for defined standards. I think that we're all willing to say that without the guidance of the defined standards, it's a non-starter, right? Like, you can't really run an effective operation that you hope to be able to steer and guide and direct without defined and organized standards. Would you think that that's a fair statement?
Agreed, 110%. It's the only way I think it should be looked at in order for it to truly be successful in its own perspective, right?
Yeah, I mean, as we look at standards, for me, it's saying, if we don't define those, then how do I follow up with an employee and say, if I don't have, for example, standards of an interaction at the front desk or in the bellman, right? And then I overhear it and I don't like the way that they're doing it. The only leg I have to stand on is I didn't like what you did. And it's like, well, great, that's super subjective and tough luck, right? But if I have a set of established standards and I have the ability to then walk up to that that team member and say, hey, during that interaction, I noticed that you didn't use the guest name, or I didn't know, I noticed that we didn't offer to assist with luggage, or we didn't describe the property or give times and dates of outlets, or whatever it may be. Now our communication can be effective. Now we can actually guide and direct and give that team member the right direction. And obviously, we default at times into the corrective action, but at the same time, it's easier to give positive reinforcement when we have those defined standards as well. We can come back and we can say, you did really great. And I can tell you where that was done well and why it was done well and how it was impactful for you. And I think that one of the challenges that we face when we have our standards just written, or they're just defined and they're sitting in the binder, is we lack the ability to make sure that they obviously remain relevant, but it's also hard to make those observations consistently and as part of our daily behavior, right? And so I know, as we looked with Yipy, was to say, I think that was one of the biggest things that was the driver of the creation of it, for example, was to say, man, we want to make sure that these standards are not only able to be updated, that they should be relevant, that you should be able to update them in a singular source and they get distributed to their entire teams without the delay of the communication roadblocks and barriers. But most importantly is that you should be able to look at those on the job and in the moment of service, which I think it's hard for maybe people that are outside of the operation to understand how important it is to be able to be in the operation while you're assessing standards, right? Because it's hard to make those formal audits, right, where you have shoppers that come in or things like that, because you're limited on how many times you can do that. But when you have managers on the floor making regular observations and providing consistent feedback, then the time unlimited, right? It's what's available in the day and who's there. So that's enough of me rambling. But I guess that I have for you then is, how critical would you say that, or how have you seen that data can drive your decisions?
It's everything. It's everything. We see it in our everyday life. Without the data, nothing truly makes sense in this day and age in which we are functioning. I mean, we even think about it as like, how did we function without, data? How did we function without, cell phones? How did we function without these things? We did ultimately, but it made things, a little bit less proficient, and efficiency was compromised, and there were so many things. Did it work? Absolutely. But we're looking at, how do we pivot long term? What does that look like? Also, how do I make this so that it's not intimidating, so it's fitting for the old school, the new school, everything in between, and ensuring that I truly get back to what we talked about before, being able to create a culture that standards not only are looked at as a standards, it becomes habitual. And that's something that we at the Charleston Place and a part of the BHC family is something that we pride ourselves on, right? It's not the fake fancy, as our founder, Ben Navarro, loves to say. It's something that is genuine, it's real, it's a part of my second nature, it's habitual. So I do this so much so that I don't even have to really think hard about it. It's something that is innate to me, and then being able to have that data to back it, it's almost like me being able to reassess it whatever time. I don't have to wait for a specific shop, or I don't have to wait for, a budget for, the following year to be able to get things implemented. These are things that I feel empowered no matter what my role is, that I can see the information, I can get to it, I can curate it. But like any tool, right? And we've had this conversation as well, it's only as good as what you do with it. But the tool with Yipy is so well done that you want to use it, right? You want to be able to.
You want to say Yipy?
Now, I can't. I will be remiss if I don't say this. I do not know how we lived without Yipy before now. I don't understand it.
I was going to ask you to describe, how do you do training and development without a digital tool that tracks? I mean, you've got the binder, like you said, it's up here. It's not with the people on the floor, etc. I mean, can you describe what it was like? Do you have PTSD?
do we have the time for this? It is. I probably need to seek therapy for it, and I didn't realize it until now. It's imperative. It really is. And to be able to not have this in this day and age, just like we know the old adage, and I'm an avid lover of metaphors. It's like leaving the house without, your electronic device. How does that feel? It's gut wrenching. Can you make it through the day? Absolutely, yes. But I can guarantee you're not going to get far. And you're probably going to lean over to somebody else and say, look, I left my cell phone. Do you mind if I use yours? Right? You're eventually going to go back to it. And I feel the same sentiment when it comes to Yipy. It gets to a point where now this should be customary. This should be second nature of how we function and how we do this. If we're going to say that we want to be the leaders, and whatever that looks like, whatever capacity, whatever organization, if it's within the hospitality realm or whatever the case may be, if we truly want to move from good to great, you have to be able to have something that's going to anchor you, and something to be able to constantly assess, to ensure that I am inspecting what I expect, but at the same turn, being able to be realistic to what things are for my organization, for my operation, for my team, right? And the tool gives you the ability to do that. It's so customizable that it's something that you ultimately will not be able to live without or lead without, right? So there it goes.
Yeah, I love that.
It makes you say Yippee, literally. I learned how to do a cartwheel when I was introduced to the system. I never knew how to do a cartwheel, but I do now.
I learned, when I was really focused prior with Yippy, was really focused on, as a training consultant. There were times where it was just like, man, okay, I'm going to go through the standards, or I'm going to just try to reiterate the basics, or really establish what the expectations are. And then when you think, okay, what do we need to focus on? Our default is going to, at times old reports or old audits that may be a little outdated. And when I mean outdated, I mean anything prior to 3 months in hospitality to me is outdated, because your team can shift so much in 3 months, right? Don't ever say like, oh, we're fully staffed, because wait 3 months. Just a curse. And then same thing with, any other type of the document that's older than 3 months, things change. And so you would say, gosh, I want to look at this feedback. And then we would default eventually also to guest feedback, which is all reactionary. Right? It's all of this, where instead, how do we really look at it as service as live as we possibly can, right? Getting in there and being a part of that operation. And what's great is that when you have a team like the team at Charleston Place, Jason, is that MJ has a benefit now that she didn't hopefully have before, which was she has her entire management staff making observations, pulling and getting data that obviously is useful for them in their department, but it's feeding this data now all the way to MJ so she can look at the property from a holistic level as well and say, gosh, the whole team seems to be struggling with name usage, or the whole team needs to be struggling with whatever, or vice versa. The whole team really rallied, is doing well at, we'll use name usage again. They're all doing this well. How do we recognize that and praise them from a higher level, a more holistic level? And I think without that data, what we run into is a lot of either guesswork or reactionary work that may come from outdated sources.
It is ultimately exactly what it is. I look at it in this way, and there is a saying, and maybe even it's a quote, where individuals are more engulfed in being a part of something that they help create, right?
Yes.
When you take a look at this tool, you help create it from the ground up. When in our careers do we ever have the opportunity to actually do this? It's not something that happens quite often. We take a look at, Jason, you even alluded to it, right? Going back to your Texas roots, right? We want to ensure that we have that cultural base, that it becomes something that is passed on from one, generation of service to another generation of service, and it doesn't lose its luster over the course of time. So we're trying to create that structure. We have to begin with the end in mind, as they would say, but ultimately being able to look at it this way. One of the things that I share with my leadership team, and we've done this during our, town hall meetings and our all colleague gatherings and things of that nature, I refer to them as being putting yourself in the position where you can be considered in your respective right to be an Olympic gold medalist, all right, or being a part of an Olympic team and as an athlete. And there's certain criteria absolutely to be able to create that level of precision, and you're representing many layers of what that sport or event is, or whatever the case may be. But I also have to be able to understand that if I am not at that level yet, right, of being an Olympian and performing at that level, and then maybe I may be in the little leagues, or maybe looking to go into the major leagues, if we're taking a look at, in comparison to like sports and being a true athlete. Yeah. It's yes, what I'm being judged on what the sport is altogether. But when do I take the time to go into the locker room or have special practices where I'm looking at the footage myself? And that's what I believe this tool gives us the opportunity to. Yes, we want to be able to get to the next level and shift whatever service looks like for us collectively, because that's truly when we're successful. But when do I get the time to be able to do playbacks and take a look at my own footage? When am I rolling back the tape? When am I going back through plays? When am I taking a look at my poise and precision and things of that nature? And this is what I think it allows you to do. Yes, be seen as the greatest of whatever arena that you want to be in when it comes to your performance or execution, but at the same time, taking a step back and being able to have that private one-on-one intimacy, either from an individual standpoint by position or by department or by division, and being able to constantly take a look and rebuffering some of the best athletes in the world, which I won't mention any names specifically because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, right? This is what they do. I learned this recently about LeBron James. He actually does a full inspection on his body after every single game. He has a personal trainer that goes through every single portion of his body, toe by toe, limb by limb, section by section. And then based off how he is feeling at that point, they reassess and then ensure this is the reason why this man is almost 50 years old, right? and still performing what he is. Levels, right? Yeah. He's naturally talented, but it's because of what's happening in the background. And I believe this tool mirrors exactly what that looks like. what we're doing in the background with the data to support it, and being able to constantly retrigger. Ultimately, it's going to get us going, whatever that looks like in our world.
Yeah.
So you're able to, by name, you have data. You can sit down with somebody and look at like 3 weeks of data to do your job, to train and develop that person into that athlete. Like it's all right
110%.
there. Yeah.
110%. And our teams actually has used this month just to comb through the system, get acclimated, get comfortable with it, figure out new ways. Adam is probably going to block us on email because we're like, Adam,
and we call those Yipy moments. Like we really do, is when properties go, oh my God,
like,
I can do this.
And we're doing that, and we're assessing. So we are so excited, Jason, to look at what the future of this looks like. And if this is how it's starting, watch out, world. Watch out, world. We're definitely going to do something big.
Charleston Place is on the right track for so many things, and the things that we're doing.
But I was introduced to this tool. I wouldn't have known it. Although we've had relationship and rapport, we've known each other. I was introduced to this tool, and I almost kissed my hotel manager on the forehead I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the best gift ever. It covers every holiday. You never have to buy your birthday gift again. This is definitely what we needed. So it's phenomenal to be able to have access to this and to be able to use it, and to have been a part of its integration and its sustainability. I'm looking forward to it all.
That's awesome. So question, MJ, if you're a property that doesn't have standards put together, or let's say you have a binder, but you haven't adopted Yipy yet, besides obviously adopting Yipy, which is the answer to the world's greatest questions. But
yes.
Besides that, if you're a property and you're saying, I really want to get better at my service, right? And I really want to increase this. What would you recommend for leaders in those properties to do to start the journey towards excellence, of
Absolutely
managing their standards and the experiences?
And this is exactly what we do. Put your playbook together. When your playbook is together, having a tool that you will be able to segue into that's going to give you a little bit more robust, response. It's where you start. You start with what you have, being able to organize that, taking a look at what is it that you truly like to assess, putting together your wish list like we had an opportunity to do during our implementation, and saying, if I can hone this in and zero it in and make it exactly the way I want, it's almost like building a beautiful hospitality service excellence robot. I would say start from there, being able to align yourself with what is it collectively that your organization, your team, your departments, your hotel company, your whatever the case may be, is looking to do and aspiring to take a look at and tap into, and start to organize those things, because it'll just be an easy implementation, being able to move what's on paper binder into what's in system, and giving you a little bit more of a robust response to ultimately things that you didn't even know you could assess and take a look at and dig into. So I would say that would be my strong recommendation. It's something that we did. It helped us tremendously in being able to embrace the tool all in itself, but it also helps to map out what's urgent versus what's important. And then being able to say is, what does service look like for us? What does that really mean? And I think great place to start.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's been a fantastic conversation. I know we can keep going.
We can go forever, but we
could order Lux and get Tex-Mex. I don't know, right?
Let's go.
Let's go. I love it.
Well, anything to wrap us up, Adam?
First of all, MJ, thanks so much for your time and your willingness to come on and talk with us. And those that tune in and listen as well, it's such a pleasure to be around someone that cares so authentically about delivering excellence and represents such a beautiful brand. So go visit Charleston, go visit Charleston Place.
Yes.
It's a beautiful hotel. You'll be so well taken care of. And kind of wrapping up here is the journey starts with the steps that you take, and you have to know where you want to go. And as you make that journey, it's worth it, right? The energy and effort is worth it. And it can be a lot better outside, it doesn't have to be a grind. It can be a nice smooth process and one that can make you say yippee.
Absolutely. That's what we're looking for. The knee-jerk reaction. It's like, wow, I can't force you to say wow, but if I create an experience that it's worthy, you'll say it and you'll feel it at the same time. I feel the same exact way about this. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I believe in life that we, especially for those who are gifted to do what they're doing, that we all have our place and there's room for everyone at the table. But for you, Adam, and with the team, with Yipy and this tool, I am so happy that there was a seat just waiting for this time because I truly, truly appreciate the gift that you have given to our industry and what it's going to do in the future. And I look forward to say that I was part of the first few users of the dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Wonderful.
There you go. Fantastic.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Let me know when we're ready to go to Texas, Jason.
No. I gotta go to a wedding this weekend. So
wow. So
I don't have to go, but
I love it. And then you can teach me a few things. I'll tell my husband we need to pack.
It's in LaGrange. Are you a ZZ Top fan?
We can make it happen. I mean, yes. I won't crash the wedding though. I promise. I'll wait for you.
I think your sound's out. So see everyone later.